And I think we all know each other. Do I need to introduce everyone? I don't think so. So we are here for the only item, a continuation of what we really talked about last time. And thank you for all being here.
So Chair Hawkins, before we go to our first item, we do need to do just general public comments. I doubt
Good.
there are any, but just in case. Elise.
Sorry about that. We have someone in attendees, but it is Carolyn Mitchell. So I'm going to go ahead and put her over and see if she. Hi, Ms. Mitchell. You're here for comments regarding the tree, correct? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Well, this would be the time if anyone wanted to make a general public comment about items in the purview of the board that are not on the agenda today, that we would hear those comments. So if anyone has comments of a general nature, and there's no one calling in, Alicia?
Not at this time, Karen, no.
Okay.
Okay, Chair Hawkins, at this time, there's no public comment. No one's calling in, so you can proceed when you're ready.
Okay, good. And I think I need to say we're reopening the agenda for what we really heard last time. And we had all the comments and discussion last time. So I think, do we open it up for deliberations?
Correct. I think at the end of the hearing, we had a stipulation between the appellant and the department that as long as board member Glenzer watched the video of the last hearing, then we could proceed to deliberations without redoing all the evidence. So maybe board member Glenzer can state for the record whether he was able to do that.
I binge watched. Yeah, no, I watched the video, and I want to apologize to the appellant for not being there and requiring you therefore to come back to yet another meeting. I apologize.
Okay, good. And thank you for all being here. I've been pondering this for 3 or 4 weeks, so it's not like it's a new subject. So what?
Oh, wait, it looks like board member Millich is raising his hand.
Good.
Yeah, I would like to say that since our last meeting, I contacted our assistant city attorney Karen, and asked her to get some information from me, which she did on traffic counts on Prescott and David, which I will address in my remarks. On deliberation, one of the 4 points I want to make. And if you would like me to, just let me know and I'll start the deliberations if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's fine, appropriate, and we're ready for that.
Okay, there are four points I'd like to make. Number one, the California pepper tree is actually a Peruvian pepper tree from northern Peru. It's not on the native tree list. It can grow to 50 feet high, 40 feet wide. It can last for 150 years, and it grows about 3 feet per year. The second point I'd like to make is that I think that tree is in the wrong place. It's over the sewer line, and while it may not break, it may or it may not. It's very expensive. It takes a long time to replace. The appellant's going to be living there a long time, she plans on, and that tree is really in the wrong place. Third thing was safety. Concerns of Ms. Mitchell, the neighbor, whose driveway is abuts the tree. There's a fence there, but there's also the tree. She says it's a safety concern of hers. She thinks it's unsafe. And that's when I went and got the information on Prescott and David on the traffic count. Every 5 years, in order to set a speed limit on a street, the city is required to do a traffic and engineering survey. And that's what I asked Karen to get for me, and she did. On Prescott, which is where the tree is. In 2017, the survey was done, and the daily count was 6,101 people, or not people, cars, vehicles that went past that location. On David, and I chose David because that's a heavily traveled street, and it's also parallel to Prescott and not that far away. David in 2019, down by the aquarium, the daily count was 6,470 vehicles a day. So safety at least is a factor when we take into account, or at least it is for me when I take into account the traffic count. The fourth thing, and this is one of the things that's mentioned in the standards of appeal for a forester's decision, is the aesthetics of the aesthetics and enjoyment for a first house, look better, more light, greater use of the property for gardening. And the one thing that we didn't mention that struck me when I went out to look at the premises was that how small the lot was and how close. It's what, Daryl, you went with, what, 40 feet, 50 feet wide, and maybe 30, 40 feet deep. It's not a large lot. And the tree just overshadows the lot. To me, the tree is just too big for the lot. And the recipient is willing to replace it, or the appellant is willing to replace it. I would suggest a couple of trees over where her planters are, and then she would move her planters over to where that tree is. And for those reasons, I would grant the appeal. Thank you.
Okay. Kent, any thoughts?
Yeah, a few. So just to start off, there's the whole science part of it. Is the tree healthy? Is the sewer going to break from a scientific perspective, if you get my drift? I think the preponderance of the evidence on that aspect of it, I think the preponderance of the evidence is probably not. Again, it's a judgment call to some extent. Who are you going to believe? Which plumber or which? But I mean, I'm convinced that the science part of this, as it relates to the sewer line, is not something that I'm concerned about. If I can put it that way. The tree's healthy. We all agree with that. Again, the science part of it. And it does come down to these four criteria that were introduced in the last meeting around anxiety, aesthetics, visual prominence, and acceptance of mitigation measures. There's no question here about acceptance of mitigation measures. The appellant has already said, I'm willing to do it. I mean, so that's kind of out of the way for me. The visual prominence, value, importance of the tree, I think that's a judgment call. And this isn't my area of expertise, but I think that can go either way, quite frankly. The aesthetics and the property value on it, it's hard for me on the property value of it. It's hard for me to see that that removing the tree is going to have a negative impact on the property value. It just seems like it would be the opposite for some of the reasons that Board Member Milich laid out. And then the last part of this is anxiety, the anxiety factor, and the appellant's herself has said that the main anxiety is related to the sewer. One can't ask somebody to be anxious about things or not be anxious about things. And so I certainly am not going to make a public statement to say you shouldn't be anxious about that. But I mean, it's just, so it comes down to me to the safety, the visual safety, and the gardening, which the appellant has said is really important to her in terms of well-being, just her general well-being. Board Member Milich, I couldn't believe that you started this by saying you had requested that from City Attorney Karen, because that was when I got done watching the YouTube video, that my main question was the safety thing. What about the safety thing? What about, I mean, how much traffic is there really there? And your articulation that, at least if I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, the traffic on Prescott is almost identical to the traffic on David. Is that correct?
About 300 vehicles a day less, 6,400
Yeah. So,
versus 6,100. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. And so for, largely in this is a really hard one for me. But I mean, largely for this issue of safety, which I do think is probably a factor. And I am persuaded, again, I don't consider myself an esthetician, but when Board Member Milich says that he thinks that tree dominates the lot, it was wrong to plant it there to begin with. Who knows how much more it's going to grow and encroach. And the appellant's willingness to for mitigation factors, I'm in favor of granting. What am I in favor of? I think the appellant's right. Whatever is the right language on that.
Granting the appeal.
Good, and those are good points. And we get to make a judgment call here. There's no, well, I am persuaded myself by what the City Council has guided us to in terms of Monterey's image is that of a small-scale residential community beside the bay, framed by a forested hill backdrop and drawing its charm from a rich historical background, certain commercial enterprises, and natural scenic beauty. Trees within the city significantly contribute to this image. The preservations of trees and shrubs is intended to assure preservation of trees and replacement of trees when removal is unavoidable. I personally feel my lot, which isn't much bigger, but it only has a single family house on it, has 8 trees on it. And I grew up on Mar Vista Drive before Skyline Forest was built. Our backyard was Monterey Pine Forest all the way from literally our backyard into Pebble Beach. And that's where we spent a lot of time. I feel this is a good, healthy tree. It's the only tree on the lot. And I think it's very significant for that reason. And we talked last time about the sewer. I think that's been solved. We talked about the safety. And I think that's just a matter of keeping the tree properly trimmed and up high enough for as you back out of both driveways. So I have to say, from City Council standpoint, which directed us this way, it's going to be 15, 20 years before a new tree that's planted becomes significant. So I'm inclined to keep the tree there.
I don't want to interrupt the proceedings, but because there was this new evidence or this new information introduced, I was wondering if I might have a chance to respond to that, because that was not discussed at the prior hearing.
Good, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, in terms of the safety, Councilmember Milich, I appreciate your investigation and your going out of the way to do that. I would just say that the number of car trips is maybe one piece of information, but it doesn't address the other piece, which was, does this tree make pulling in and out of that lot any less safe? And whether there's a way to mitigate that without removal of the tree. So there might be 6,000 car trips down Prescott, but I don't think there's any evidence that the tree makes ingress and egress to that lot any more dangerous, especially nothing that could be not mitigated by simply trimming the tree. In fact, I believe at the last hearing there was discussion in terms of the fence being more of a safety concern there than the tree, especially since you can just trim the tree. Another point, well, I think that was the only new information presented, so I'll limit my comments to that. Justin, did you have anything to address in terms of the new information that's been presented?
No, you covered it. Pruning, I think, is what we ask people to do when that's an acceptable thing to mitigate any hazard that's there. Part of the reason for my denial. Or actually, I guess it wasn't brought up when I initially denied. You covered it.
Yes, Steve.
As I recall, Ms. Mitchell, the neighbor, was the one who raised the question of safety and said, as far as she was concerned, it was unsafe for her to back out of her driveway. And that's what got me going to check with the traffic count. So there is evidence that it's unsafe, but exactly as to what it means, that's subject to, I guess, interpretation.
Okay.
Daryl, in the interest of fairness, we should give appellant a chance to speak too, since the city had a chance.
Good. Okay. Go ahead. If you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think with question of safety, it's the experience that myself and Carolyn have in terms of backing in and out of the driveway because we have to live there every day. So I would hope that that does carry a little bit weight if we are saying that we feel like it is an issue, that that it may be an issue.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? And thank you for coming back. Steve,
If you're ready, I'll have a motion to make.
go ahead.
I move to grant the appeal of the appellant, and I guess that's it.
Okay, good.
I'll second.
Okay.
Just a point of order. Do you want your motion to include a mitigation, whether it's 2 trees or 3 trees?
I actually have a question about the mitigation. I don't know if now is the time to pose that question.
Go
I
ahead.
think we should answer it before we get to the voting. So
So-
yes.
So my main question on the mitigation is, one of the options is the planting of 3 new trees on this lot. And it makes me think of 50 years from now, there's going to be 3 trees on that lot instead of 1. And it seems to me like that's an odd thing to suggest for that reason.
I agree with you, Ken.
Yeah.
I was looking at it, and having looked at the lot, 3 trees would be an awful lot.
Yeah.
It would be almost like a hedge. If 2 trees, I think is doable if they were the right kind of trees. Obviously, you don't want 2 pepper trees.
So do you want to amend your motion to include 2 trees off the
Yes,
list of approved trees, that sort of thing?
yes.
Okay.
If that second will accept that.
Yeah, as long as we're allowed as a board to stipulate that, yeah, I second it.
Okay.
You are.
Good. Okay, are we ready to vote? Any other questions or comments?
Ready.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep, can now.
Okay, sorry about that. I wasn't sure you can hear me or not. Okay, we'll start the vote. Board Member Glenzer,
I vote in favor of the appellant's appeal.
Board Member Milich,
Yes.
Chair Hawkins.
No.
Okay, the motion passed 2-1.
Okay, Shanira, thank you for your patience and your guidance and help in this, and we wish you the best with your trees and your garden.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your time.
Don't plant pepper trees.
So at the risk of I don't want to drag this on any further. Does the appellant, I'm sorry, have to consult then with the city forester in terms of which trees, or is it just any trees off of the list?
They can work
Well,
that
the
out.
motion was only to select 2 trees off of the list.
I'm happy to consult about the specific tree. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay.
I'll send you, it's not necessarily an approved list, but I'll send you, since it was off the list that we do have, I'll send you something.
Okay.
That
great.
is what we send as general guidance. And if you have questions on that, I can help you out.
Thank you.
And much on my mind is 15, 20 years from now, will we know the difference once those trees become established? So we wish you the best. Thank you very much for your time and patience.
Chair Hawkins, 15 or 20 years, I'd just be thankful to be around.
I agree with that. Okay, good. So anything else we need to discuss?
No, I think that closes our public hearing, and if there are any general board member comments.
This is our 3rd meeting on this tree, so maybe not by now.
And once again,
Okay.
I apologize for my role in that.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Ms. Ogbonna, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Board members, thank you as well.
I would just say to Mr. Glenzer, had you shown up, you probably would have voted no, because we wouldn't have had time to get all the material and data on the safety issue, which was an important issue for you. So in a way, from the appellant's point of view, it was good that you weren't there at the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you
Okay.
for all your comments, and we will see you at the next appeals board hearing, whenever that is. Is there anything coming up that you know of?
Not at this time, though.
Okay, good.
All right, bye all.
Bye.
Okay,
It's
bye.
adjourned.